Well, hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Tony, and the channel is Tony Talks Cards. I'm in a different position today. We've got a new friend I want to talk to and have you all meet. I think a lot of you know who he is, but looking forward to doing a little bit of a chat here with our friend Rev Steve from Rev Steve Cards. Let me open up, put him on the screen here. Hey Steve, how's it going?
Good, Tony. How are you?
Good. I love it. Been watching your videos. How long have you been out, I guess, on YouTube? I've watched, I think, all of them since you kind of came out.
Oh, 4 or 5 weeks. It's not been long. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Very good. Well, I'm glad we can connect up and have a time to chat here. I know a lot of us have similar collecting interests and collecting stories and backgrounds, and I love seeing your Strongsville video too. I think you put out, and so thank you for making the time for us all the way over in Pennsylvania. I'm in Arizona, and making this work on a Friday. So
Yeah.
look forward to chatting more about your collecting history and story, and then kind of where you started at. So maybe introduce the folks who don't know who you are to your channel and how you got here to YouTube and what your interests are.
Well, I'm Red Steve Cards. I started collecting a long time ago, but my kind of journey into YouTube started. I was watching YouTube. I've been watching for a while, although I started listening to podcasts, and just because I would listen while I was at work and so forth. And then when I wanted more content, I found two or three podcasts that I really clicked with. And then once I ran the course. You can listen to so many hours. And so once I'd done all that, I went back and I went to YouTube and began to find these people on YouTube and then discovered this community and just wanted to be part of the community. There's so many good people that it's just crazy that they share so much, just their wealth of knowledge. And so I just wanted to be part of that. And I think that's what kind of drew me in. And at first I just started, I was liking and commenting a few times here and there, and then it just kind of became this thing where like that's not enough. Like I want to be more a part of this group. I could see these friendships and these friendship that had developed over this love of cards. And it was funny, Mike, baseball collector, he was interviewing. I think he was interviewing Dylan from Double D Vintage, and those two guys. It feels like they couldn't be much different personality wise. This Texan and this Hawaiian surfer, and
Yeah.
the energy level of Dylan is off the charts. But here are these two guys that can come together and talk about baseball cards and just connect on this level that's just different and unique. And so that's the real reason I kind of jumped into the YouTube world, the vintage art in particular community, but just the card collecting community in general. Just because I wanted to be part of something that was bigger than just kind of me watching and commenting on video. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I started out too with just not Googling, but like typing in YouTube baseball cards, football cards, like, and millions of things come up. You're like, oh, this is way too much. How do I kind of narrow in and find the people, find the folks? And eventually you kind of have to find your way through different videos. Are they modern? Are they vintage? Are they football, baseball, all of the above? And then you find your people, you see who's commenting and you follow their channels, and those people lead you to more people. And then you end up, 6 months like me and a few weeks like you, like with all these things you're watching, and it's cool how it spirals that way.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, take me back, I guess, to maybe, do you have an early memory when you first got like a first football or baseball card? Like how old were you? What were you into back then? And kind of has that impacted, I guess, what you collect today still maybe?
So I don't feel like I could tell you the exact year, but I remember opening 87, 88 packs, and that would have been my first kind of introduction to it. We were living in Iowa at the time, and Iowa has no Major League Baseball team. We had the Iowa Cubs, which is a minor league team,
Yep, yep.
but there's no Major League. There's no professional sports teams at all in Iowa. Not any
That's
sport.
right. Yeah.
So so we were big into college sports, but all of my friends were collecting baseball cards. All the friends in the neighborhood, and so I just started collecting baseball cards. And at the time, there were these stars that everybody would collect, and so that's how I started. And you kind of pick a player, I guess. I didn't have a team really. I just picked a player I wanted to collect. I happened to pick Rickey Henderson. At the time, he was part of the Oakland A's. When he actually, it's kind of funny if you look back. It's just as he was getting traded to the Yankees. But I liked the Oakland A's, and so I collected a bunch of Rickey Henderson cards and just enjoyed some of that. Of course, he had teammates that were a lot bigger than him at the time. You know, you think if you think back to the 88, 89, 90, even that era, if you think about the A's, you tend to think of Jose Canseco or Mark McGuire, at least at
Mm,
that time. You know, you didn't
yeah.
have Dennis Eckersley as well at that time. And so
Yep.
all of these players, everyone else, if they collected the Athletics, that's who they were after. And I wasn't going to do that. I went after Rickey Henderson and just started to pick up a bunch of good cards. So yeah, that's where I started. Uh, Still have a bunch of those Rickey Henderson cards today that I picked up when I was 7. They are not in good shape. Most of those that I picked up early on. But yeah, that Rickey Henderson was my guy, and I still collect his cards. Still, if I go to card shows and I'm digging through, there's a lot of them I don't have. I don't have very because I stopped collecting when I stopped collecting baseball cards when I was probably 13, and so anything mid 90s and beyond, I really didn't have any Rickey Henderson cards. And so when I'm at a card show or a shop and I see a card I don't have, a lot of times I'll pick up another Rickey Henderson. So yeah, it still impacts me today. He still would be the player that I like the most and enjoy collecting his cards.
Yeah, 87, 88. I feel like I've heard those years, that year range from so many people where we were all born in like the late 70s, early 80s, and like the wood grain border, the overproduction, just baseball being such a big deal, cards being a big deal, the Beckett's were coming out. It just seems like that's such a core memory for
Yeah,
people who are our age. I'll just say it. I'm mid 40s. The gray hair's coming out, right? But loved all those packs. They were 40 cents, 45 cents. I was like, when Upper Deck came out, I was like, "Oh, Upper Deck, I can't." It's like 3 times. I can't afford that at all. I'm like gonna go to the poorhouse trying to buy a pack of cards or a box. The box was out of control. I couldn't do that, right? So I was always a Topps guy or Donruss guy, Score, Pro Set, just all the cheaper ones because I like the volume of
that's
them. But if
funny.
you have
People
that
talk
sem
about Griffey chasing all the time, and it's like I never Griffey chase. I never chase after his rookie card because I couldn't afford them. I'm with you. I bought Tops and Donruss and Score and Fleer and
Yeah, I have
all
all those
kinds of
sets still, and they cost me who knows how many dollars back in 1990 to put together, and they're worth probably less than they are than they were back then, right?
stuff.
But
Yeah,
tons of wrappers, tons of gum. Set collecting was kind of at my core at least. But I remember seeing, yeah, those upper deck ones, seeing the stickers like saying a buck 25, a buck 50. I'm thinking, that's like, I want more cards than that. But again, Griffey was such a big chase and it's valuable, right? But it was also produced a
yeah,
lot as well. So no, those are good sets. I like just having those good cheap memories, and it
yeah,
was kind of more fun. It seemed like maybe I'm just the old guy or the old people saying that, but it was fun to collect them and search for your favorite player in that pack
yeah,
and hope to pull them, maybe trade with other friends too.
yeah.
Um, so were you into mostly only baseball, other sports you got
So
into
I was
ever?
in strictly baseball until probably 92 or 93, and we moved to Illinois, and I began playing basketball. And
Hmm.
of course, that's during the height of the Bulls. You know, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, of course,
Yep.
eventually Rodman, but also B.J. Armstrong, and most people don't know who that is, and that's fine. But he was from the University of Iowa, and then went to play for the Bulls. So
Oh,
he went
nice.
from my childhood college, well, it's still my college team of choice, to playing for my professional NBA team. So I was like B.J. Armstrong. But anyway, so we moved to Illinois, and I just kind of shifted. You know, there was probably a lot going on with my life that had to do with that. But then I have different friends. We played with a basketball team, and you know everybody's collecting basketball cards, and so I just kind of shifted my focus almost entirely, really, to basketball. And again, I still have all of those cards that I collected through the probably through the late 90s, not quite late 90s, 96, 97, I guess.
Yeah.
So collected basketball cards purely until that point. So it's funny because like I just block when I was only baseball, and then maybe 6 or 8 months when I did both, and then this block of all basketball, pretty much completely.
Yeah, and it's funny how, like, just your life trajectory, parents moved you, you move, whatever, new state, and then you expose yourself to new sports, and because that team is great. Like the '90s were Chicago, the Chicago Bulls, right? They would have won probably 8 in a row. I'm a Bulls fan too. Never lived in Chicago, but collected them from afar because where I lived, we didn't have a sports team. I lived in various places, but never had one. Well, Arizona, I lived in Tucson growing up, which is south of Phoenix. The Cardinals didn't come here till 1987, I think it was. So I was a Bears fan because I saw them play on TV and like they won. I must root for them. It's like just random like 6-year-old kid way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I've been a Bears fan ever since, and then we had WGN and cable for the first time in 6th grade, and I'm like, "WGN? The Bulls are on, like, every night in the wintertime, and the Cubs are on every day in the summertime. I must be a fan. I've gotta watch them, right?" So, that's how I kinda happened into that, but we didn't have any, like, home team to, like, pull me
Yeah.
in. So, it could have been worse. Chicago in the
Yeah.
'90s was a great
Yeah.
place to be for that.
Yeah, you didn't wanna be a Knicks fan and got, uh, disappointed every year.
Yeah, I know
Or
those are some
Jazz,
amazing, like, NBA on NBC, and just I can hear, like, hear the jingle for that, the logo for it, watching basketball on the
yeah.
weekends, and, yeah, Jordan and yeah, Armstrong was, I think, the first half of that. Did he play
Yeah.
the last half of there or not?
No, no, he ended up going when I think the Grizzlies maybe when they did their expansion, he moved to one of the
Oh,
expansion teams. I don't remember if it was the Grizzlies or who it was, but yeah, he
yeah.
was one of the guys the Bulls didn't protect, uh, much to my disappointment.
There were guys who were like, yeah, like the first half of the 3 and, like, the second 3. It's like some are different,
Yeah,
some are the same, like Jordan, but there were definitely folks in the back end, like Rodman was the back end right there too, and loved watching him late in high school, early college. I went to school in Utah, funny enough, and they played the Jazz, right, for those last 2 years, and I was not a Jazz fan by any stretch, I was still a Bulls fan, so seeing those rivalries and cheering for the other team was always fun for me, and then, of course, they won
yeah,
against them in those 2 years, which was great as well, so but no, I never got into basketball until I think I moved to Utah, and there was a team like the Jazz there, and I bought some tops and hoops early '90s, I should say, have some cards randomly sitting around in a closet somewhere, but, was more into football and definitely baseball back in those days
yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I never did football, I grew up in a pretty pretty strict religious home, and so we didn't watch sports on Sundays, and so
Mhm.
that eliminated NFL for me. I it's funny,
Yeah.
I when I married my wife who's a lifelong Pittsburgh Steelers fan,
Mm.
and she still to this day knows far more historically about the NFL than I do. Like she can, especially Steelers, and so when I married into kind of a Steelers fan, that's how I did that. I was not growing up. Although when I did that and I talked to my dad, he remembers the Steelers from his childhood, and so
Mhm.
there
Yeah.
came some of that connection with him. Like he loved this. That was his team when he was a kid. He loved the Steel Curtain. And
Yeah.
so that was kind of funny that. And I don't know, probably nobody cares, but Iowa Hawkeye fans. But the Iowa Hawkeyes coach when I was growing up was a guy by the name of Hayden Fry, and he was a Steelers fan, and so he patterned the Iowa Hawkeye football team uniform after the Pittsburgh Steelers. So they share the same colors,
Yeah.
and they look the same. If they're playing a game and you aren't paying close attention, you can get fooled by whether that's Steelers or the Iowa Hawkeyes. So it's
That's a
kind of
cool
a funny,
story.
yeah,
Yeah, no, the Steelers in the '70s sure were the team to root for as well. Them and the Cowboys were, and I guess Vikings too were there. But then in the '90s, the Steelers had a little bit of a comeback too, I feel like. And then, of course, with Tomlin there, he's been pretty consistent. He's been there for a while now, right? Or
yeah, yeah.
is he still
Yeah,
there,
he's been
right?
there a long time.
Yeah. They've had very few coaches, I think, over their lifetime. It's like I don't want to go into that deep. It's like only a few coaches the last like 40 years, I feel like someone told me
Yeah,
at one point. So
yeah,
yeah, that's good. Good team to root for too, and
yeah.
being so close over there too. Um, did you ever have like were you more of a Rickey Henderson? Obviously, you were a card collector of his, but were you also a set builder or more of a player collector person back when you were younger?
I didn't really, I didn't really do set collecting. I did more players that I liked, and so I focused heavily on Rickey Henderson, but
Yeah.
I would collect just any of the cards of players that I thought were fun. Cards players that I liked. Uh, I would trade off, of course, some of the best ones for the Rickies that other people had, but I never did any set collecting. I probably just didn't buy enough packs to do it. Um,
Yeah.
but that wasn't really a thing for the people that I collected around. There's no one else that I can remember that was a set collector. The kids, anyway. I didn't have any adults in my life that collected cards, so I didn't have any experience with that. But the kids didn't. We just traded one player for another player.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good point too, because back in the day when you're talking about 87, 88 tops baseball, I mean, that was 800 cards.
yeah,
That's a lot of packs to buy and getting duplicates and triplicates, like, you take a while to get that set complete, right? So it's almost like a daunting challenge to even do it, let alone all the commons you're getting. And Ricky's only one out of 800 cards you probably care about getting, right? So it's
Yeah.
hard. And it does cost 45 cents at a time, a lot of money to do that, right? And binder storage and pages and all that stuff. So yeah, football, I was more of a football fan, but football always had a little less cards for whatever reason. It was always 396 cards versus baseball had double that. So I could complete my sets faster with football.
Yeah.
So I always enjoyed that kind of getting to that point quicker, I guess. But ended up did buy some complete baseball sets back in the day and have some memories of that. But was mostly always a football guy. But then again, with all the 50-cent packs and Donruss and Score, they were really colorful back then too. There were reds and yellows and blue backgrounds that kind of really got me. And so I have a ton of memories of opening those things at local card shops and trying to find all the cards I needed 50 cents at a
Yeah.
time, which was, a lot of allowance money, of course, to do that.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's cool. So you said you mentioned at the mid early 90s, you kind of maybe took a step away from collecting potentially. And was that
Yeah.
about getting into college or high school or other stuff, interest
So it
levels?
was probably college. I went to college. So I was born in '80, and I went to college I graduated in '98, and then went to college in '99, and focused completely on ministry stuff for years. And there was I talked about this in kind of my introductory video a little bit, but there was always part of me that wanted to collect and enjoyed collecting. And so I honestly, it's kind of a weird thing, but I just collected books, like books that I was interested in reading. And so I have a pretty good sized library for someone that's my age that isn't a professor, you know.
Yeah. Mhm.
But I just collected books, and so I laid off of baseball card collecting or any card collecting um, until honestly until last year. So maybe the beginning of 2024. And a lot of people got back into it in 2020 because of the pandemic, and everybody's closed up and they can't do anything. They might as well look at their baseball cards. But as a pastor, I was actually busier during the pandemic than I was before the pandemic. There was
Hmm.
my work about doubled. That my office time increased, maybe not doubled, but it increased dramatically, and put a
Yeah.
lot of stresses. And uh, so I did not have time to pull out my cards.
That's a
Uh,
good perspective. That makes sense. Yeah.
yeah,
So no,
yeah. So I got
and
back into it right away.
and maybe that was a good thing because cars prices went up pretty high, and now
Yeah,
they're kind of maybe more moderating out. So you didn't want to be on the top end of maybe some of those purchases too. But
yeah,
it's funny how much our stories are similar because I started collecting grade school, stopped at like high school to save for a car. All the money that went towards allowance money to then buy packs went towards saving for a car. And then from a car was graduating to high school, then saving for college. And college, I was outside my parents' house. Cards were still there. I couldn't see them, think about them. It was all about the dorm and studying and school and grades, all that stuff. And just then it's your first job out of school and you're dating, you marry somebody, right? All these things were kind of more important than like the cards were. But when our oldest was about to be born, I got back into it like in '08. So I always collected, but then took a break. And then I was like, what is this thing called eBay? There's cards. They sell cards like I used to buy. What? This is an amazing. What is all this? I was like so out of the loop of people doing things like that on eBay and Amazon. So but yeah, I managed to avoid the card run up in 2020, 21 too. I was just doing other stuff with job was kind of different, new job. There was other stresses like, of course, during those first few years of COVID as well, and continue to be in some cases, but then got back more into it probably in 22 and 23, trying to rebuild some sets I had built like 30 years before that. And then YouTube just opened up a whole new realm of you collect that? That's really cool. I didn't know that even existed. Wow, I want that now. And so it's a rabbit hole that goes pretty deep, but it's been a fun journey so far to find out about stuff people like and their stories of how they could be similar and or different in how we collect. Yeah.
so it's funny, if I were going to do confession time before I got into sports cards, I have two boys who are 13 and 10.
Mm-hmm.
My youngest one, he's turning 11. So kids was a big part of it. I've got four kids in total. My oldest is graduating high school in a couple weeks and heading off to college in the fall. He's going to Pitt, and
Nice.
so, so I've got so like your whole thing, married and kid, like this that echoes like yeah, that's I just didn't have time, and so the confession is that I collected Pokemon with my boys because that was what they were into, and so
There you
well, I
go.
can do this. I can figure out how to collect Pokemon cards. And we really did, at least I did, at least to play the game with them. It was a game I could play with the kids. And so that really, like, they still collect Pokemon cards, especially the older ones. Uh, but
Yeah.
but that was just kind of something that, like, it appealed to the collecting side of me, even if I didn't care about the Pokemon side of it itself. Just that kind of collecting. So that was actually before I got into sports. I did Pokemon for a while, just with my kids, my boys.
That's a cool story. Yeah, I one of our kids, I think the both of them for like a year, kind of got into it a little bit, got the cards, learned how to play the game. I had no clue how to play the game. I should have learned. I never tried to learn. It was always confusing to me about what the points were. But for a year they were into it. They bought some cards, have them in probably pages somewhere in their rooms. But neither of them ever got into football or baseball cards. They both played sports, but never got into like collecting the cardboard visuals of players who
Yeah,
played on Sundays. So it's kind of a different step to take to do that, I guess, versus just like watching the sports and liking who's
yeah,
out there. But that was me. Like I was second grade, I was hooked, and they just never got into it. But that's a good point you bring up about your kids may not follow exactly in what you do or like, right? But you can kind of understand their interests and be with them, play with them, entertain them, and vice versa, and share on their level, which is really cool during the time they're into it. And if they still are, that's cool too.
yeah. Well, they do other stuff now too. They do football and a little bit of basketball. Uh,
Okay.
Not ton into baseball yet. It's kind of funny that, like, the sport that I'm into the most, they haven't really. They've kind of dipped their toes into the water a little bit. One of our
Yeah.
local card shops has every Saturday. He has free pack Saturdays. So anybody that goes into the store gets a free pack of cards, and he has them like in this case, and you can kind of pick. And so a lot of our junk wax stuff, like 87, 88, 89, score, Donruss top. And then he has some newer stuff that's, the lower stuff, but it's all baseball cards. And so we'll go up there. It's about a 20-minute drive from my house. So we'll go up there once in a while on a Saturday, and the boys each get to pick out a pack. And so they enjoy that part of it.
Nice.
But
Yeah.
then they ask me, well, who did I get, Dad? And so we kind of have a little competition, like who got the most Hall of Famers in their pack, or something
Yeah.
like that, or can they get somebody that Dad likes? Uh, but but that's so I appreciate that shop owner. He's done some wonders for my boys to help them along that way. And not that I want them to collect how I collect or what I collect,
Yeah.
but it gives us a connection point that we wouldn't. I don't think we'd otherwise have. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a good way. Yeah, free pack Saturday gets people in the door. You may buy some other stuff from just a consumer marketing perspective. It's
yeah,
cheap for them, and you get the kids who are having fun with their parents and learning about players. I think that's wonderful. That's a cool idea for that local card shop. So
yeah. Nice idea.
yeah. So your current interest now, I know I've watched some of your videos talking about pirates and your Hall of Fame binder, I think you have. Has that been something that if you were looking back at your 15-year-old self, you would have thought you were getting into, or is that more of a recent thing you've kind of started to get into more recently?
So when I got back into collecting, I was kind of lost for a few months, not really knowing what to do. And part of my issue, I mentioned already that I didn't have any adults around me that collected. The
Mhm.
one card shop I can remember going to was when I was getting into basketball, and that's part of the reason probably why I did basketball. Shaq was a rookie at the time, and everybody was
Oh,
Shaq
yeah.
chasing his rookies, and so that store was really more focused on. They did have a Rickey Henderson rookie card that I couldn't afford, but they were really more basketball focused, and so the history of sports cards, any sports cards, but in particular baseball cards, was completely foreign to me. I didn't know the
Mhm.
cards, knew the big players. Everybody knows the big players, but I didn't know anybody outside of the inner circle of the Hall of Fame, and probably didn't know half of them that were in it. Like, just didn't
Yeah.
know who they were, didn't really know anything about them, except for the turn back the clock cards from when I was a kid. And those turn back the clock cards were fun.
I forgot about those. Yeah, that's right. 87 had them, 88
Yeah,
maybe a lot of years.
80, 87, 88, 89, and 90. And so they
Okay.
covered, and so they kind of went through the years. Actually, it was one of the cool things for me when I was a kid was having a turn back the clock Rickey Henderson that was from 1982, and then being able to get the 1982 Rickey Henderson. So I actually had both of the. It was the 87. It was the year for that particular card.
Yeah,
Um,
cool.
and so there was always that. a little bit of interest, but no knowledge, and didn't really have anyone around me to help me down that path. And so when I started trying to find podcasts, it it seemed like the majority of the podcasts were chasing cards in the modern, especially the ultra modern era. You know, looking for what rookies are we trying to find, or what's the one of ones, and all of those. And I didn't
Yeah.
understand it. I'm colorblind, so the color parallels thing throws me off a lot of times. I don't know what color the card is. I can't tell by looking at it, and so I have to ask, and that's not really what I want to get into. And it just none of it interested me, and it's not against anything the people that do, but like for me, it just wasn't working. And then I found Adam from Splendid Sports and Dylan, and they did a turn back the clock thing, but Adam interviewed a lot of people. Then I found Mike's podcast, the baseball card collector Mike, baseball
Yeah.
collector Mike. But I found his podcast, and just did a deep dive. And he kept talking. He would say phrases when he would be talking with people like, um, you know, if you say this number, everybody in baseball knows that number is connected to. And if you talk
Mm.
about the 72 tops, you know, Roberto Clemente, we all know what that looks like. And I'm like, well, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what those numbers mean. I don't know any of that stuff. And I've always loved history in general. And so it just made me crave knowledge of history. And that's where my Hall of Fame project
Mm.
is born out of. Like, I want to know the history of the game, and I want to know the history of the cards. So
Yeah.
how can I develop a binder? I like binder collecting. It's just fun. It goes take me back to my childhood, and it's less expensive than graded.
Yeah. For sure.
But if I could just put together a binder that is a walk through baseball cards and baseball history, then that's what I would really enjoy doing. And so, but I don't want
Nice.
to do rookie cards because that gets to be expensive. And so that's just kind of trying to develop those things. But that's what kind of really drew me back into the specifics of what I'm collecting now. The not that I don't collect modern stuff. I do have some modern stuff. I can show some a couple of them. But like
Yeah.
for me, the draw was I want to know the history of the sport better than I do, and this growing appreciation I had for the players and have for the players, of the I don't know, the glory days, I guess, but
Mhm.
just those years before my time. And I haven't dipped into pre-war yet, and that's something at some point I'd like to do, but just kind of trying to focus, trying to stay in my lane for a little bit,
Yeah.
and just get some more knowledge about these players, their careers, and things
That
like
makes
that.
a ton of sense, yeah, I like the concept of, like, knowing Mickey Mantle, we know who Babe Ruth is, those guys, of
Yeah,
course. The Yankees, you know who those guys are, but there's a bunch in the Hall of Fame who I wouldn't have known they really are. Who is that person from 1935? But they were great in their time, and they made it, but they just don't have that Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle kind of cachet to them that kind of
yeah,
pulls those cards out, right? So, I love the history side of it too and learning about who these people are, even like my own team, the Cubs have their own team Hall of Fame of people that some of them are Hall of Famers, MLB, but some of them are just Cubs team Hall of Famers. I'm like, who is that person? But they were great for 10 years for that one team and not major league qualifying Hall of Fame player, but they were good for a while. So I like learning about those folks too. And those cards definitely are a little more relatively more affordable than the bigger Hall of
yeah,
Fame cards too.
yeah.
So that's really neat. So seeing all those cards in your binder and the pirates you've talked about, talk to me about, I guess, Strongsville a little bit. How was that for you? And would you go back? And if you are going to go back, like, what would you want to buy or look for maybe next time you go?
So I would definitely go back. Um, one of the reasons I started the YouTube when I did my YouTube channel when I did was because I wanted to kind of let people see what I looked like, so I could maybe
Mm.
meet some people down there. I didn't get to meet as many as I would have liked. I was kind of rushed out of there. I could have stayed longer, but I didn't. But anyway, the card show itself, like just the show, if you just talk about the card, was fantastic for me because there were a lot of things I was looking for that first of all I wanted raw, and I just didn't know. You know, I heard a lot of people. I'd watch people talk about going to Strongsville, and what are they looking for in Strongsville? And these people are looking for cards that are $700-800 or $2,000 or $3,000, and it's like I don't have that kind of budget. I don't want those cards. I don't
Yeah.
want graded cards. So is that all there is?
Mm.
Because if that's all there is, then I don't want to go. And so I
Mhm.
hopped on Everyday Card Collector. Jason's he was talking about the road to Strongsville, and I just sent him not to send a message, but asked in the comments. I said, if I go with $100 budget, which I had more than that, but if I go with $100 budget, can I enjoy the show? Like, can I get cards and enjoy my time? Because I don't like to go to a show for 30 minutes or an hour. I want to go walk around for 5 or 6 hours. Like, and
Mm.
so can I go and do that for $100? And he said I could, and that kind of sealed the deal for me. Like, okay, I'm gonna commit. I'm gonna go. And so I went to Strongsville, found a bunch of stuff that I really wanted, found including cards that I didn't think I was going to be able to get, wasn't going to be able to afford. Um, and so the prices weren't outrageous. Of course, you have to pass on some things. And you have to.
Mm.
I didn't buy the first one. I found my the Ralph Kiner card. I wanted a 53 Ralph Kiner, and I found one right away. Like the first table I stopped at, which was like the third table in, but it was more than I wanted to pay. And so I'm
Yep.
like, well, I'm just gonna keep looking. It was a good card, it was a nice card, but maybe in a nicer condition than I needed for my binder. And so I just kind
Mhm.
of kept looking, ended up getting one anyway. And that was super helpful. And on the other side of things, I wanted to complete my Manny Sanguian tops run while I was there, if at all possible. It's hard to find his cards. He's not he was an all-star. He played on the all-star team a few times, but not a Hall of Famer. Like you mentioned with the Cubs, he's a Pirates Hall of Famer, but he's not a MLB Hall of Famer. And so his cards aren't like they're not out on people's tables. And so I had to dig through people who were looking for set collecting. I was digging through those same boxes
Yep.
looking for my Manny Sanguians and was able to complete his tops run while I
Great.
was
That's
there.
cool.
Enjoyed
Yeah.
doing that. But I think the most expensive of those cards was $3. And so like here I can dig through these boxes and find 10 or 15 cards for $1 to $3. And
Yep.
I can also go to a table and pick up some nicer cards. So yeah, so I do hope to go again next year. That would be the plan at this point. I'll know a little bit more, of course, next year. It's a long time away. But
Yep.
I think the next thing I'd like to be able to save up and pick up one of my bigger cards that I need for my binder. I don't have a Jackie Robinson. I don't have a Mickey Mantle.
Yep.
Those are going to cost a little bit more. Would probably be something I would just budget to buy maybe one card and then pick up, take $20 more to just dig through dollar boxes and just do something like that. So I go to other shows with my kids, and this is one I don't go to with my kids because they're not really interested in this aspect of
Yeah,
collecting.
the vintage of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so there's that part of it. So yeah, I think I would go and do similar to what I did this year, except maybe limit myself to just trying to get one of those bigger ones. I really want to get a Jackie playing day card, which I do not have any of yet. So
Yeah.
that's kind of probably my goal for next year. Is I'm looking forward to that. I don't know if that'll still be the same in 12 months, but yeah, we'll
Yeah,
see.
things can change every week, let
Yeah,
alone every month, and you got 12 months to wait for it,
yeah,
and Jackie Robinson, yeah, even his, I think 56 tops is the last year, it's pretty pricey, right? I mean, you grades, of course, vary, but
yeah.
do you have one in mind, a design, a style, or just one that fits the budget you'd be okay with?
Yeah, I'm probably leaning toward the 55 or 56. Both are really nice. I really like the 55. That's the. It's not my favorite of his cards. My favorite of his cards is the 53, and I
Mm,
also really like the 52. But those are pricey, and I don't. As soon as I buy one of those cards, I'm kind of like, that's it for him for me, and
yeah,
so and that's going to take up so much of my budget and take away from other players that I might like. If I had the budget to buy a 52 or 53, I probably still wouldn't. I would probably still buy a 55 or 56 and then
yeah,
pick up something else for the binder instead. On the off chance that that would happen, that I would say, well, okay, now I can buy a mantle. Because, like, for the price of a 52 or 53, I could buy a 55 or 56 Jackie and then also buy a 62 or 63 mantle. Um,
yeah,
so
yep,
like it's that much of a price difference between his cards, the Jackie cards.
Yeah, I'm a fan of mid-career or last cards of players. I like all the stats on the back, and they usually
Yeah,
are the cheapest ones, the last one, right? Rookie
yeah,
cards in the 80s and 70s, you can still buy those for not that much, right? But going back to the
yeah,
60s and 50s and beyond that, I'm okay with the last they look old, it's their last card, and maybe they were at the end of their career not really doing that much, but it documents kind of their entire career a little bit on the stats on the back and talks about their highlights. So for my quality and quantity, I'm fine with the quantity of that if
yeah,
I can buy more cards, like you
yeah,
said.
yeah. I agree. That's how it's funny. I was at a card show, a smaller card show that was just happening in a local mall a few months back, toward the end of last year, I guess. And the guy had a case full of cards, and they were $10 each. And oh well, there's Hank Aaron's final playing day card. I'm like, well, I don't have a Hank Aaron yet, and
Yeah,
Hank Aaron $10, and like it's got one corner that's pretty dinged up. But otherwise, it's a really nice card. Like it's nicely
yep,
centered. It's a nice looking card, and it's his last card. And so, like you said, it has all the stats on the back.
yep,
Like, sure, I'll pick up a Hank Aaron for $10. Absolutely.
yep. No, I'm all about that. I mean, I'll eventually move up to some other ones too, but I'm trying to put together not collect every Hall of Famer, but trying to at least get the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s ones, right, that I don't have, and trying to find a card of the year that kind of best represents maybe one of their best years, which usually is in the rookie year because they weren't that good usually early on, or one that shows all their stats on the back, which are more cost-effective ways to collect some of those guys. Now, Mickey Mantle, even his last card in beat up conditions, probably a couple $100. So it's not inexpensive, right? But versus other cards, it's a screaming deal, right? Versus
Yeah,
the 50s cards. So it's all about, yeah, what makes you happy, what you enjoy, and learning about the player, the history, the stats, what they meant to the Major League Baseball, even American history in some cases like Jackie Robinson, right? All those are really cool things to further enhance the collecting, I think, too.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah, no, I couldn't make it this year. Obviously, I wasn't at Strongsville, but we'll be going to the national, but then do want to try to get to Strongsville next year in
right.
April. And before we turn on the video, I know we were talking about our professions, and certainly with your role too. Easter's curiously always falls in March and April too, right? So I think it's in
Yeah,
March next year from a church
Easter,
perspective.
yeah.
It could be,
Yeah,
yeah. So
Easter's it may be the Sunday before Strongsville or 2 Sundays before. Yeah.
yeah. And this year, I guess it was kind of the weekend of Palm Sunday, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that when it was? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all those things kind of affect, worlds and whose job is busier when versus not. So, but yeah, no, if I can get out there, that'd be great. And just all the videos, I probably watched way too many videos of people, showing off pickups just or the meetups and the show, the trade night, right? I mean, all that just looks like 110% so much fun and just be able to meet people and shake hands and see people in person. And the $10 cards or the much more expensive cards, right? If you can find something that makes you happy and you want to finish
Yeah.
up your run, your set, your player collecting, right? That's cool. Like digging through dollar boxes or $10 boxes, that's get you off your feet too. You save
Yeah.
walking around, right? Save your knees and ankles a little bit, right? Sit down in a chair for a little bit. But
Yeah.
that's the fun stuff about card shows I like as well. So that's good to hear you had a great time and would want to go back next year too.
Yeah. Definitely.
Cool. Well, I know we're coming up on about 40 minutes here. So again, thank you for this has been great. I've loved learning more about you and your collecting and kind of your story. I know you don't have them with you right now, but any cards you have nearby you'd want to show or ones you've picked up or just want to talk about? I mean, if you have them nearby, if you don't, that's okay. I wasn't sure
No, I've
if you
got some cards that I pulled. I can start from my newest ones or my
yeah, whatever you
not
want to talk
newest in years, manufactured years. I talked about my modern collecting, and the weird thing is with the modern stuff is that I like the modern stuff that looks like the older stuff.
about.
So I picked up, I don't know if how well this will show up, but there's an Andrew McCutcheon that
That
looks
comes
like the
good.
1988. So that's
Yes,
my first, that was the first ones that I picked up. And the way they did the color matching with the Pirates, even the colorblind guy can tell that they color match the Pirates.
yeah.
And I have that one in his 88 and his 89, and then um, I do that with his. I'll be picking up his 91 at some point as well. That's what they did with the newest set. And then I did the same thing with Rickey Henderson. I've got this one. It's a Topps Chrome of Rickey Henderson. This one, it's. I'm not sure these are
That's
showing up.
great.
Are these showing up okay?
It is,
So
yeah.
so that's Rickey, and I've got some of his older cards. I couldn't afford his rookie card when I was a kid, but I won't bore you with too many. But I got a package from my little brother a couple months ago, and in it was a Rickey Henderson rookie card, and he sent this to me.
Oh my
It's a graded.
gosh.
I don't have any graded cards, but he sent me a graded rookie card, and taped
Great.
to the back of the Rickey Henderson rookie card was another Rickey Henderson rookie card, but this one has his autograph on it. And
That
I
was
do
a
not play
what a
autograph.
great gift. Yeah.
I have a Rickey Henderson autograph, and so I couldn't believe it. I sent him a message. I don't even know how to say thanks for this. Like that's
Yeah.
awesome, you know. So
Congratulations. That's a wonderful kind of full circle from our story earlier about Rickey Henderson and player clicking
yeah,
out, having an autograph and they're both graded. That's
yeah,
really cool.
yeah. So those are really neat, and so I one of the things I've talked about this, and I think I showed this card. I picked this one up in Strongsville. This is one that Mike talked about and talked about how important this card was just
Mhm.
to the history of baseball. And there are things that you don't think about if you don't come into the baseball card collecting from the historical side of things, which I'm trying to do. And the idea that Frank Robinson, as a manager, the first black manager for a baseball team on a card, that's pretty significant. And again, I think that was a dollar or two from
Yeah.
one of those set collecting boxes. Um, I collect Clemente, a little bit of Clemente. This is his 72 card, which I really like. I also do some of his modern cards, and this is one that I picked up
Mm.
at a recent show, and it looks like it has the same photo as the 71, but this is a Stadium Club,
Okay.
um, and so it's a really sharp image. If you like the image from the 71, but you don't want to pay that, or just want to get another sharper image of it, that Stadium Club is pretty nice. Um, and then I showed my Manny Sanguillen run. I'm a big fan of Manny Sanguillen. If you like Clemente and you know his story, learning the Manny Sanguillen story I think is really good. Um, his story about growing up, and he's from Panama, and the players from the South and Central America, those stories are fascinating to me. Some of those guys that came up, and some of them grew up. I listened to the book of Mariano Rivera, and he talks about
Mm.
growing up and pitching all of his life. And he talks. Of course, he had a glove that he made out of boxes and stuff like that. But he dreamed of playing in the major leagues, whereas Manny Sanguillen didn't know anything about baseball until he was 20. And
Okay.
so the completely different stories um, of guys. And so I'm going to be looking for his cards, his kind of Mangini doesn't like when we say oddball cards, off the beaten path cards, and then just my Hall of Fame. I picked up a few of my Hall of Famers just for my Hall of Fame collection. Some of them I collect just because they're nice. You're the Cubs fan. How about the
Yeah.
Ryan Sandberg? I love the 90 version of his card. I think that's one of his best Topps cards. Um, and so I really like that one. And then I like the Dave Winfield. This is the Dave Winfield from 70, what's that, 78, right? 76, I mean, I'm sorry,
6 maybe?
76 Dave Winfield. I,
Yeah.
I love that they have their positions in that corner.
Yeah.
And I always like that picture. Somebody was showing some Dave Winfield cards, and I said, and they showed this Winfield, and I said, that's the one I want for my binder, that one right there. And so I went hunting for it, and found that one. And then uh, some of the players, like you talked about, significant moments in their lives. So for Bill Mazeroski, who's a Pirates guy, that's his 1960 card. That's the
Yep.
year he hit the only walk-off home run to end Game 7 of a World Series. It's only been done once in baseball history. That was Mazeroski for the Pirates beating the Yankees, which some might suggest that makes it extra special. And then
That's a
my
great
favorite card from
yeah.
Strongsville is Mike
Oh,
Gamble.
wow. Look at that.
I love this card. This is I did not think I was going to get away with this. I was actually looking for. I thought maybe I was going to get the next year, which is a
Mm.
little less expensive. But I
Yeah.
saw this one in somebody's set. Um, I talked him down a little. I didn't talk him down. I just asked him if he'd let it go for a little less than what he had the sticker on it. Um, and that's such a good card. And so you talk about with my kids. This is one of those cards I could come home and talk to them about. Here's a guy who couldn't play in the major leagues because of this color of his skin,
Yep.
and so his career was shortened on the front end because of that, and then his career was shortened on the back end because of his car accident. But at the same time, those years he had, what a great player he was, and very joyful presence on the field. So anyway,
That's It's a
That's
great
just a few of the
him
cards
sliding
here.
into home base on that 56 tops as well. Just the
Yeah,
action shots in the background of the
yeah,
kind of painting-like drawings. I mean, it's just such a cool set with
yeah,
seeing the 2 visions of the player out there. Yeah, that's good.
yeah. I really like the 56 set. That's
Yeah.
definitely one of my favorite sets that I found. Probably my favorite set of the 50s. That although hard to not like 53 the best, but I really do like the 56 top set. Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's cool you showed a lot of modern cars too, because I know negative percentage points about anything modern really these days. So
yeah,
knowing that they kind of made like a Clemente card or someone else that looked like the old card and like to get kind of maybe guys like us back into it's kind of cool and seeing what they look
yeah,
like, the shine on them. And then you can collect those as well as the original card from the 1960s or 70s when they actually were playing. So it's cool to show the range of things there in someone's collection. And it's
yeah,
cool to show that I would have assumed this anyway, but you can buy those, you can find stuff in the dollar boxes at Strongsville, just like you can buy the $10,000 card. It's not just like it's only like museum showpiece type stuff. There's also set builders combing through stuff as well. So it's good to kind of have that perspective for those who want to go next year too, and not be kind of afraid they can't find something maybe or buy that type of stuff. So
yeah.
that's cool.
Genuinely, I would say that if you are any type of vintage collector, it doesn't matter. Like it'll have something for you. It'll have cards, and tables that I mean, like I don't collect graded, so I just kind of walk by those tables.
Yeah.
But if you like graded, man, there's tons of that there. And if you want raw, I was surprised at how much there was available that was raw. I didn't really expect to have quite as many options as I did.
Yeah,
But
it sounds like from the dollar commons or less maybe to the superstars that are maybe raw sitting there too. You can negotiate or kind of bargain down someone on, which is it's
yeah,
just good to know that. You would always assume it's there. It's a card show. They want to compete with it. They want everybody kind of buy something they like, but having
yeah,
someone say that out loud is also good just for going next
yeah,
year too.
yeah.
Cool. Well, that's
Good.
good. Great cards to show off. Thanks for bringing those and walking
Oh
us
yeah,
through what you like and your projects, and good luck with the continued Pirates collection there,
yeah.
and
Thank you.
maybe some BJ Armstrong cards. I don't know.
I've got a few of those sitting around. Yeah,
You got a few already. Okay, no need to kind of go back and rehash those, I guess. So,
yeah.
well, cool. Well, I thought we could wrap it up here. And anything last you'd want to share or talk through
I
before
don't
we
think
kind of
so. I just really appreciate this. I thank for inviting me to do this. I really appreciate just the opportunity to chat for a while. It's good.
Yeah, no, nice meeting you, Steve. We meet each other weirdly, kind of seeing people's videos in 5 minute, 10 minute chunks on the internet, right? But then to talk live to someone for 40 some minutes here is great. So thank you for accepting it, and glad we could find a time that works on your East Coast schedule, my West Coast schedule, and then and talk about card collecting too. So, well, good. No, great. Have a great rest of the day, Steve. Thank you again for jumping on here, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a good day too.
All right, see ya. Bye.